Welcome back to Kuma English Listening Hub. Today we're exploring a trend that's spreading through museums and galleries around the world: silent hours and sensory-friendly visits. At first, that might sound like a small scheduling change, but behind it is a bigger question about who museums are for and how public spaces can welcome people with very different needs. Let's start with the basic idea. A sensory-friendly session is a time when a museum adjusts the environment to reduce overwhelming stimuli. That can mean dimmer lights, lower sound levels, fewer sudden announcements, and a calmer atmosphere overall. Some museums also limit ticket numbers during these sessions or change how staff interact with visitors. The goal is not to make the museum boring or empty. It's to make it predictable, comfortable, and accessible. These sessions are often designed with autistic visitors in mind, as well as people with ADHD, anxiety, PTSD, dementia, or sensory processing differences. But they can also help visitors who simply get overwhelmed in crowded, noisy places. Parents with young children sometimes appreciate them too, not because kids are quiet, but because the environment is less intense and staff are prepared for a wider range of behavior. To understand why this matters, think about a typical museum visit. Even if the artworks or exhibits are peaceful, the building itself can be challenging. There may be echoing halls, bright spotlights, security alarms, school groups, interactive displays that suddenly play audio, and crowds that move unpredictably. For some people, those sensations don't just feel annoying. They can be physically exhausting or even trigger panic. Now, it's important to say something clearly. Sensory-friendly does not always mean silence. Some programs are quieter than normal, but they also encourage visitors to move, speak, or take breaks as needed. The point is flexibility. In many traditional museum cultures, there's an unspoken rule that you should be calm, quiet, and still. Sensory-friendly sessions challenge that idea. They treat the museum as a shared space where different kinds of visitors can belong. So, what actually changes during these hours? Let's imagine a museum preparing for one. First, they might create a visual map of the building, showing key areas like toilets, exits, quiet rooms, elevators, and busy zones. They might also offer a social story, a step-by-step guide explaining what will happen from arrival to departure. For a visitor who feels anxious about uncertainty, knowing the sequence can make a huge difference. Second, staff training is crucial. It's not enough to turn down the volume on a video display. Front desk staff and security guards need to understand what sensory overload looks like and how to respond with respect. That could mean allowing someone extra time at the ticket counter, using clear and literal language, or offering choices instead of commands. For example, would you like to wait here or in the quieter area? Sounds very different from you need to move. Third, museums often create a calm space. This might be a small room with soft lighting, simple seating, and minimal decoration. The purpose is not punishment or isolation. It's a reset button. Visitors can step away for a few minutes, breathe, and return when they're ready. In a world where many public spaces offer nowhere to pause, this can be surprisingly powerful. There's also the question of sound. Museums can reduce background noise in several ways: lowering speaker volume, switching off certain audio installations, limiting guided tours, or choosing times when the building is naturally quieter. Some places offer noise-reducing headphones. Others provide earplugs, sunglasses, or fidget tools. These small objects can act like a personal control panel, letting visitors manage their own sensory input. At this point, you might be wondering, doesn't this create a separate experience, almost like a special event that isolates certain people? It's a fair question. Critics sometimes say that accessibility should be integrated into daily operations, not limited to certain hours. And ideally, many sensory-friendly practices would become normal: clearer signage, quieter alarm systems, more seating, better lighting design. But there's another perspective. Silent hours can function like a bridge. They give museums a structured way to learn, test changes, and build confidence. They also send a public message. We see you, and you are welcome here. For visitors who have felt excluded, that message can be the difference between staying home and participating in cultural life. Let's talk about the word quiet for a moment, because it can be misleading. In some programs, quiet means fewer visitors and a calmer pace, not necessarily strict silence. In others, it means the museum asks everyone to lower their voices and avoid loud activities. There can be tension here, because museums are trying to balance two goals: reducing sensory strain while not policing behavior harshly. This balancing act becomes even more complicated when we consider that museums are not only about art. Many modern museums include interactive science exhibits, children's zones, and immersive digital rooms. Those are designed to stimulate the senses. Turning everything down too much could remove what makes the space exciting. So instead of thinking in terms of on and off, many museums aim for zones. A building can include high stimulation areas and low stimulation areas, with clear transitions between them. Imagine walking from a bright, noisy exhibit into a softly lit hallway with benches and simple signage. The contrast helps visitors regulate themselves. It's similar to how a city might have a busy shopping street and a quiet park nearby. Another interesting effect of sensory-friendly hours is what they reveal about museum design. When staff start paying attention to sensory overload, they notice problems that affect everyone. For example, unclear signs can increase stress for any visitor. Long queues with no seating are tiring for anyone with chronic pain, and frankly, for anyone who is simply human. Overly reflective floors can confuse people with low vision, but they can also make the whole space feel cold and harsh. Accessibility improvements often end up improving the experience for a much wider public. There's also a cultural dimension. Museums were historically built as temples of knowledge, with strict rules and a certain social atmosphere. Many people still feel that museums are not for them, even if ticket prices are low. Sensory-friendly programming is one way museums are trying to shift from being gatekeepers to being hosts. However, these programs require resources. Adjusting schedules can reduce revenue during peak hours. Training staff takes time and money. Creating calm rooms, improving signage, or redesigning lighting is expensive. Smaller museums may struggle to offer comprehensive sessions. That's why partnerships are common. Museums often collaborate with autism advocacy groups, occupational therapists, or local communities to design programs that are realistic and truly helpful. Let's imagine the experience of a visitor during a sensory-friendly session. They arrive and find a clear sign explaining what to expect. The ticket desk is calm, and the staff member speaks slowly and kindly. They receive a map with highlighted quiet zones. Inside, the lighting is softer and the loudest audio displays are off. They walk at their own pace. If they need a break, they sit in a calm room. No one stares. No one treats them as a problem to be managed. For some people, that scenario is not a luxury. It's the minimum condition for participation. And participation matters. Museums are not just places to look at objects. They are places where a society tells stories about itself, whose history is valued, whose creativity is celebrated, whose achievements are remembered. If certain groups cannot enter comfortably, then the public story becomes narrower. Now, if you're thinking about language learning, there's a useful metaphor here. When you learn English at a high level, you might not struggle with vocabulary, but you may still feel overwhelmed in fast conversations, crowded environments, or noisy cafes. You need the right conditions to practice confidently. In the same way, sensory-friendly hours create conditions where people can engage fully, not just survive the experience. So, what can museums do next? Many are moving toward universal design, meaning they plan spaces that work for as many people as possible from the beginning. That could include adjustable lighting, quiet corridors, clear visual communication, and predictable layouts. It could also include flexible rules like allowing visitors to move, talk quietly, or use devices that help them self-regulate. Another possibility is offering choice-based visits. Instead of one standard route, Museums could provide different pathways: a shorter, calm route, a family route with interactive highlights, and a deep focus route for visitors who want to read everything. This respects the fact that there is no single correct way to enjoy culture. Before we finish, here's a question to consider. Have you ever left a place not because you were bored, but because your senses were overloaded? Maybe a shopping mall with loud music, or a festival with crowds, or a restaurant with harsh lighting. If so, you already understand the core idea. Sensory friendly museums are not about making everything silent, they're about giving people the chance to stay. Thanks for listening today on Kuma English Listening Hub. If you'd like, listen again and notice the vocabulary around accessibility, design, and public spaces. Try summarizing the main point in 2 sentences and then in 1 sentence. That kind of practice builds C1 level clarity. See you in the next episode.